If he's elected, then two things happen right away. The police department dissolves.
Former progressive Dave Rubin had on the former cable king of the 2000s, Fox News host Bill O'Reilly, and the two of them did some insane fear-mongering about a potential Zohran Mamdani victory in this upcoming mayoral election in New York.
How bad do you think New York City will actually get if he becomes mayor?
Well, Mamdani's doing the Fidel Castro playbook almost word for word.
Now, you can disagree with Zohran Mamdani, but to really say that, oh, if he's elected, 500,000 people are going to leave within a couple years.
So that flow out, I estimate to be at 500,000 people in 4 years under Mamdani. 500,000 will leave the New York City area.
And 10,000, 20,000 police officers are going to quit because of his anti-police views.
So the NYPD, and my grandfather was one, is 10,000 light. 10,000 under what they should be. You're going to have another 10,000 out of there. That is going to give license to every violent miscreant to do whatever they want to do.
And Dave Rubin will say this is going to be a Gangs of New York situation where you're going to have mobs of impoverished people go to the Lower East Side of Manhattan and start killing people. I mean, it's ridiculous.
To me, this will end sort of like the end of Gangs of New York or the end of Dark Knight Rises, where why wouldn't the poor people of downtown be ransacking the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side and taking back what is, rightfully theirs?
You might not agree with everything that Zohran Mamdani has to say, but to fearmonger at this level that he's pulling the Castro playbook, that he's going to come in and essentially start executing like Che Guevara did his political opponents, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And to be honest, the hypocrisy from these guys, it blows my mind, because they talk about, oh, should politicians have moral codes? Should politicians be examples for the public of living a moral life? And they say this as Republicans whose almighty leader is Donald Trump. I mean, Bill O'Reilly even talked about, oh yeah, when we were growing up as a Catholic, we were told if you do this, you're going to go to heaven. And if you do this, things are going to be a little hot for you.
I'm Catholic. I still go to church every Sunday. And when I was in Catholic school, there was a clear right and wrong. Okay? You do this, you go to heaven. You do this, it's going to be a little hot for you. Gone. Okay, that's gone. So religion is dissipated to a stunning degree. And a lot of kids don't ever hear about it. They don't know what the Bible is. They don't know what standards of behavior that is easily imparted by politicians and clerics, but a lot of them are just afraid to do it.
And no one does this anymore. The left, the Democrats, the Zohran Mamdanis, they want to eliminate this moral code from our society, and they want to destroy everything there is about tradition and our moral codes. Now, if he said this and you had a guy like George W. Bush as president, at least you can say, all right, I don't really agree with you, but, okay. But you got Donald Trump as your president, a man who's cheated on his wife too many times to count with porn stars. I mean, the guy was on Epstein's Island for sure. It's insane hypocrisy. And at the same time, it's insane fear-mongering.
Mamdani, I think, has studied Castro's speeches because the same patterns are in play. Oh, I'm not a communist. Oh, no, I'm a democratic socialist. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. He would confiscate everything you have, Dave, like that, if he could.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
All right, that's what he wants. He wants to confiscate private property. He wants the government to run everything and to give to the have-nots or whatever it may be.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Marcus here, back at it again with another video. I'm almost back at 5,000 subscribers, so if you could hit that subscriber button if you're new, I would really appreciate the help. Today, I want to talk about the recent Rubin Report uploads on YouTube where he had Bill O'Reilly as a guest on his show. Now, Bill O'Reilly got fired from Fox News around 2017, marking the end of a really amazing career on cable news where the guy was like the #1 8 o'clock cable news show for decades. I mean, he beat out all of his competition, whether it was Keith Olbermann, on MSNBC and others. So the guy has his accolades when it comes to cable TV. Now he seemingly releases also a new book every single year. So he's on like his 50th book that he's published, and it's a new one, and that's why he's on the Rubin Report. And I really gotta say, O'Reilly, he's always said some crazy stuff. I never thought he was as crazy as the true MAGA people, because you can tell that the guy is intelligent, but in this way, he's sometimes more dangerous. Now the fear-mongering that he pushes here with Zohran Mamdani is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I mean, I don't understand how you can take it to such a point and act like New York is really gonna collapse if this guy becomes president. Now I want to go over a few of the points that he and Dave Rubin made, and I mean, we don't really have to talk about this whole moral code thing. Should politicians showcase moral authority for the public?
Do you think politicians have any responsibility to be giving a moral guidance, or should that purely be coming from, say, like a religious perspective?
Well, they can't give moral guidance because most of them are immoral. So how can they do that? But they can certainly lay out standards of behavior. And that is very important in the public arena.
This is obviously BS that they're going to use to talk about, the depraved left, the unreligious left. And I mean, it's also kind of funny from Rubin because he's a gay man who just adopted a child with his husband. And a lot of people on the Republican side describe this type of behavior as an example of this moral code crumbling in front of their eyes. So it's kind of funny that it comes from Dave Rubin, to be honest. But I want to just address some of these points that Bill O'Reilly made about Mamdani. And the first is related to the taxes. Now he says very clearly, many times, it's typical Marxism. It's the Castro playbook. Your taxes across the board are gonna double. He's gonna tax everything. It's gonna be draconian taxes. I mean, it's really crazy how no matter what kind of tax increase you support as someone on the, let's say, more progressive side of the Democratic Party, a guy like O'Reilly is gonna come in and say, oh, you wanna double taxes?
Because what he's gonna do is put draconian taxation on everything, not just your income, but everything's going to double, because he's going to boom, 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 New York City tax on this, New York City tax on that. And corporations are going, can't do it. So they're going to go to Tennessee, Florida, Texas, the Carolinas, and the people who have homes in the 5 boroughs are moving to Connecticut, Long Island.
Listen, it's a 2% tax on any individual earning over $1 million. This is a progressive tax. Okay, so you make your first million, and the millions after that, so the second, the third, and the fourth, the taxes on that, on the income, are increased by 2%. Wow. Cry me a river. This is really shocking stuff. I mean, and then he says he's like Castro. Now the corporate tax rate, I believe, is going to go up from about 7% to about 12%. Now that is a pretty hefty increase, but to be honest, you're not in New York because it's cheap real estate. You're not in New York because of cheap taxes. As a corporation, you are in New York to attract the best of the best, to attract the best employees, to attract the best executives, because New York is where people want to live. Now I've never really bought this type of stuff where, if you raise the corporate tax rate in a certain state, they're all going to leave. Well, they already kind of do. I mean, none of the corporations in New York, I really doubt that a lot of these big corporations have their official headquarters in New York. So whether your tax rate is 7% or 11%, they're not going to be headquartered in these specific places. But I can guarantee you that top corporations in the US, in Europe, and everywhere else want to have a big corporate office in New York, because it's how you attract the best of the best. So again, typical fear-mongering from Bill O'Reilly, but they always do this. Now, other than taxes, the part that is the most absurd when it comes to the fear-mongering is the part about police and safety. Because here they essentially predict that it's going to be like the Purge and that there's going to be a complete breakdown of societal order. Now, O'Reilly says that when his dad was an NYP police officer, you were already 10,000 people short. And they're not wrong. Now, this is one of those situations where you do have issues in New York with the policing, but it's not because of people like Mamdani. It's not because of the anti-police movement. It's because they don't want to pay the police officers more. It's because they don't want to hire more police officers on that same pay. It's like with every single other job in the United States, they've done their best to cut all pensions. They've done their best to overwork the individuals. And again, as Mamdani has said in multiple debates, especially when people throw him this line.
It's one that we're going to deliver public safety to each and every New Yorker, and we're going to do so by recognizing the critical role that police have to play in that, and also by creating the Department of Community Safety so that police do not have to do the work of mental health professionals, and that we can follow the example, the evidence-based policies we've seen be successful elsewhere in the country, and start to divert those mental health calls outside of the police department so the police department can focus on the 7 major categories of crime.
New York police officers are not just police officers, guys. I mean, they're like psychiatrists, they're mental health officials, they're social workers. It's insane. You know, we've essentially, people who Bill O'Reilly idolized, like Republican presidents such as Reagan, who essentially gutted all mental health services in the United States. I mean, this is one of the reasons why being a cop in the US is such a tiring job that causes a lot of people to burn out, because half of it is essentially taking care of mentally ill homeless people who should be under the care of a social worker, and in some cases probably be institutionalized. But this isn't really something they want to talk about, And so when someone says, hey, what I want to do as the mayor of New York, I want to increase the taxes so that we can have more mental health services, so that we can have more services to help these people. They're like, oh, well, you're going to raise the taxes and all the police officers are going to hate you. And then they go even further into this whole thing where he's like Castro. I mean, no one really believes this shit. You can't really tell me that you have people under the age of 40 who really think Zohran Mamdani is like Fidel Castro and doing the Castro playbook. It's just an absolutely absurd level of fear-mongering. And I think... So we have our fear-mongering and we have this whole funny aspect about the morality crisis. Really, it just serves up an amazing interview to watch. And guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, I'm not someone who agrees with Zohran Mamdani 100% of the time, okay? But do you think I'm gonna not support Mamdani over someone like Cuomo? Like, are you kidding me? The guy's probably not even gonna get half of his agenda past Mamdani if he wins, but it's just a sign that you have someone who isn't part of this horrible and loser-obsessed establishment of the Democratic Party. He's someone who you can tell who has his own ideas when it comes to, for example, Israel-Palestine. Now, I really like his ideas about the free bus fares and the public grocery stores, because these public grocery stores, that's a great idea, because the US is full of food deserts where a lot of the big corporations aren't going to open a grocery store because the insurance costs would be too high and it's in a poor neighborhood, so maybe they don't get as much of a return. So then you have areas of the United States where all people really have to eat is like gas station food, it's canned food, or this really high sodium food that's really, really unhealthy. So funnily enough, someone like RFK should almost support this idea of Mamdani, because it really would make America healthy again. So just because I have some aspects that I don't agree with Mamdani on, that doesn't mean that I don't completely support him and hope that he wins, and that if he does win, it's a huge sign for what could be next in the United States and what is possible. Well, let me know what you guys think of Mamdani in the comments below, guys. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next one.